All right. How are we doing today? Saturday. Thought we'd have a. I have no idea what these words mean. I think it's from actually a poem, 16th century poem. But I have no idea. So I thought it'd be a fun song. Anyway, yeah, we had a hell of a week this week. There's a crap ton of stuff that I want to go over, as well as I'd like to go over the certainly the overall market and what I'm seeing in the overall market. Let me get to the page that I want to go over. So if we look at, this is Goldman Sachs equity index. If we look at the equity index, equity sentiment indicator, we're actually negative, which is sort of weird because the market right now is set up with, whoops. The market right now is certainly feels like it's a lot more bullish than this last week. If we look at the Goldman Sachs U.S. equity sentiment indicator, you can see that it's very odd. Even though the market is bullish or feels bullish, the sentiment is actually negative. So it almost is like the stock market in 25 has been in a permanent depression. I mean, look at this. We were positive all pretty much last year from the sentiment indicator, but for whatever reason, well, we know what reason, there's a lot of crap going on in the world. So looking at the CTA position in equities right now, while buyers are maxed out, CTA buyers are maxed out, mutual fund cash balances have also been significantly depleted, But again, overall positioning scores are not that stretched. We're only at a 65. So the feeling in the market is, I really do think that it is an overreaction. This is looking at the semiconductor index. Look at what happened this week. Now, some of that's going to be with Trump's comments after he had all the tech leaders into the White House for dinner. And some of that, I think, is right afterwards, in the very next morning, he was talking about tariffs on semiconductors again. So you can see how the global semiconductors is turning down, but look at energy starting to once again trying to turn positive, right? Which makes sense if we're going to expect that we're going to have a run up in economic activity. Yeah. So let's go down here. In addition, if we look at, this is actually the regional banks, low-end consumer and regional banks are starting to turn up again. Those are things that my team members and I will be looking at. We actually were talking about regional banks last week. In addition, this is in addition to net exposure, both again on KRX as well as net exposure on region or low-end consumer. And you can see that the exposure starting to rise. Yeah, right here on this side, actually. Sorry about that. In addition, what do we have here? This is the Bank of America private cash holdings. So the Bank of America, their private clients are at the lowest cash levels in a long time, probably back to 06, 07, right? That doesn't necessarily mean all that money's in the market, by the way. Some of that money can be in bonds, can be in, this is X cash. So we got to take this into, put it into context. The tech this is the Mag 7. Well, it's the Mag 8. You can see that tech is just continues to fly. This is the amount of retail cumulative buying. The Mag 7 and Palantir, 50 billion year to date, and that's been largely driven by NVIDIA, which has seen about 20 billion in net inflows. Tesla and Amazon have followed with 13 and 10 billion. So, from a leadership standpoint, the tech sector looks fine right now. Does that mean it's always going to look fine? I don't know, but right now it looks fine. I have no concern. Looking then also, this is equity flows, and you can see that the equity flows, which is this lighter blue line here, is starting to pick up and catch up to fixed income flows. I think we're going to see a pivot where fixed income does one of these and equity does one of these. All right, so last week we had a shortened week, right? We had Labor Day, but the last 4 days have seen the worst U.S. macro performance. So that means the financial information came out of the government, the BLS data, the jobs data. It was the worst that we have seen in a long time. However, that is set up what? Rate cuts, right? 50 basis point odds are now above, I think 13, or 50 basis point cut is above 13%. 25% cut is almost 100%. And so that will be in the next 2 weeks, we're probably going to get a cut. The market has been wrong on this, and I continue to think it's wrong because the market is expecting 3 cuts now for the rest of the year. I think it depends on what Powell does in the next meeting. The bad news is good news reaction lifted bond prices, which drove down yields, okay? On the week, big tech, NASDAQ, and small caps outperformed, but the Dow did end lower this week. In addition, we had the Mag 7 stocks outperforming again the S&P 493 other stocks, and those actually finished red for the week, right here, minus 0.7%, okay? In addition, we have the most shorted stocks managed to get back to even amidst the choppy week. So I look at those as being the most shorted basket as a momentum play. In addition, we had big tech and crypto collapsed at the same time. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened here. 2 days in a row, Jane Street. So Jane Street is a big, huge trading firm out of Europe. And 2 days in a row, let me show you what they did to the price of Ethereum. And it is intentional. They are trying to keep the price of Ethereum below 5,000, okay? So this is what happened yesterday, and then I'll show you what happened the day before, all right? It's our 15-minute chart. See this? This is Jane Street, okay? See this? This is Jane Street. Why are they doing that? Well, it appears they have somebody short around 4,500 to 40, maybe all the way up to 5,000. And they will continue to do this on Ethereum until they're done letting their client cover. We knew, at least the last couple of weeks, there was a massive short position in Ethereum at the $5,000 level. I also want to show you something. Now, this is not a pattern yet, but what I'm seeing is in the overnight, there's buying. That's the gray. Okay, and then in the day session right here, selling, okay, selling, buying in the overnight, selling. The green is selling, the red is buying. This is institutional. Look at the bottom, gray. Look at there's buying. Look during the day, selling. So what's going on? Institutions. I believe these are fingerprints of institutions accumulating Ethereum. Why? Probably because they think it's going to go up. I think it's going to go up because of the structural issues with it, or the structural events that are occurring with it. So let's get back to my preliminary charts here. Oops. There we go. All right. So again, we're looking at global bond yields. They're once again tracking global macro data. Remember I showed you that chart earlier on macro data. Global bond yields are coming down. Remember everyone freaking out. Oh, rates are going higher. This is like, what, 3-4 weeks ago. Rates going higher. Sovereign risk in the U.S. has gone up. The Fed's not independent. Don't listen to any of that shit. Rates are coming down. Short-term rates are coming down first. Watch the 1 year. Watch the 2. They are going to come down. They are going to fuel, okay, a big... Well, they're going to be one of the ingredients to help fuel a real estate boom in the U.S., okay? It's going to happen. Let's take a look at this. What do I have here? Oh, yes. This is oil prices. Look, OPEC Saudi came out this week and said they're going to cut. Why are they doing, or they're going to produce? Why? Well, because Saudi Arabia is the U.S.'s probably strongest, most non-destructive ally in the Middle East. I would say Israel's the most destructive ally. And the president's told the Saudis that he wants oil down, period. So oil is going to go down, probably going to go below $60. And I think it will set up for a hell of a macro play on a longer term standpoint at some point when it bottoms. All right, let's take a look at this. This is real gold prices. Okay, so this is real gold prices adjusted for inflation. Well, you just hit a high from way back in 1980. So yeah, gold looks like it's breaking out, which makes sense if there's continued risk throughout the world, or perceived risk. And there is a lot of risk right now. Yeah. Let's take a look at this. And interestingly, oil is at its cheapest in terms of gold pricing than it's ever been. Pretty big. Back to 1980s. So all in all, gold's going to continue to go low. The market is pricing now 3 rate cuts this year. And I don't know. Here's what the challenge is going to be. Is the market going to take, 2 rate cuts, 3 rate cuts? Are they going to look at that like, oh, this is terrible, the economy's going to a recession? Or are they going to look at it like, all right, we're going to have a soft landing and the market is going to start moving up again? I don't know. We'll have to wait. I think the market's going to rally into the fourth quarter. All right. Looking at the daily charts on the S&P 500, did make a new intraday high, but failed obviously to close at an all-time high. So while I'll be looking long, I won't be able to get anything long on Monday. I'll have to wait till this re-breaks and closes above it. Looking at the Russell 2000 small caps, we have a new closing high for the week, and I will be looking long here. I'm going to try to do that through TNA right here. Okay. Did I get it closed? Let's take a look here. In fact, let me take all these studies off my screen because they just mess everything up. There we go. All right, so looking at TNA, let's go back to the SPX actually. On the SPX, you can see here, right? Big day, big reversal in the middle of the day, purposeful reversal. So I am not long that. I'm looking at the Russell here. Okay, we did get a new close, so I will be getting into this, and I will do it via TNA. TNA is the 3X Russell, so I'll be entering that trade on Monday. TLT is the inverse of the 30-year, 20-year bonds. So I am looking to enter this right up here. I have an alert already. Oops, so sorry. I have an alert already. 90.25. I get 90.25. Take a look at this. A break of here. Look what I get. I get all of this. Yeah, even better. Looking at, let's see. I am very light right now in terms of positioning, individual position. I'm heavy in a couple stocks. Oh, let's look at the Qs. QQQs, stuck in consolidation, right? You see it up here? Look at this. Just stuck. And so until and unless that level breaks, right here, I've got nothing to do on the TQQQs, okay? Individual positions, gold, yes, we want to get into gold miners. I think we'll take a shot at WPM on Monday. VIX, while the VIX did try to move up on Friday, it again fell down. There's just no, I mean, there's a lot of spoken fear in the market, but I'm not seeing fear. UVIXY barely moved, 0.03. I am in a long-term buy in UAMY. I'll continue to hold that. Tesla, I am waiting for a break of 369.25. Get me out of this whole mess down here. And then I'll take this all the way up. Okay? Looking at silver. Silver continues to run. I remain long, and I'll continue to remain long. Looking at Roblox, this was one that I like to trade. Not yet. I'll wait to see if it comes back down to that 120 level. PPTA, we have been trying to get into. Let's take a look. I have no entry here. Look at, this is what I call an inside day. So Friday's action, so top to bottom, was completely contained by the previous day, right? What do we see? Finding support here where it did before, right? So this may come back up again. So that's why I'm watching it. PCT. PCT, I would love to take this trade as a low close doji, but I can't because it also made a new low. So I have to wait for a close above Friday's low to get in. What do I think longer term? I think PCT is probably the announcement of contracts. I did open up half a position in it because I do think that there's going to be a continued interest in the company and that we could get something this next quarter. All right. NVIDIA had a crappy day on Friday. I have zero interest to do anything until we get down here. I'm not going to short it. I'm not going to go long it. I'm just going to wait. Mankind, great move. Oof. We did get a low close doji, and I will look to enter that on Monday also. Mankind, by the way, has a phenomenal CEO. I have talked to him. I think he has 90% of his net worth tied up in this stock or his investments, and the guy's just a straight shooter. And it's a company I've been watching. Mr. Reyes and I actually did a lengthy conference call with him in the spring, the CEO, and we both walked away very impressed by his integrity, his honesty, just a great guy. And so I'm super excited that some of the moves that he's executed, United Therapeutics just again gave them more money to develop another drug or to develop another line of drugs. So in United Therapeutics, CEO and the CEO of Mankind have the former CEO and founder of Mankind have a deep relationship. He actually created or developed a drug that saved the CEO's child's life. So if this, my reading on Mankind was, or my belief was, when I met with him in the spring, he had said, he was in the middle of doing a big change, let's call it a pivot. And what I'm seeing him do now is pivot away from being more of a biotech company, which is higher risk, to more of a pharmaceutical company with determinable, predictable revenues, royalty streams. So I'm impressed. There's still risk, but when it comes to a company and management, that's one of the most important things to me. So that's why I like PCT. That's why I like EOSE. EOSE's management is Cerberus. Okay, that's why I like them. That's why I don't like Enovix, because all their management sucks. So, all right, let's take a look at Iron. Iron had a big move, but again, stuck in a channel now, right? Remember, my rule is 3 candles, okay? So I start at this candle and I go back 3. From the top of the third, or from those 3 candles give me my range. This thing is stuck in a range right now, okay? General Motors, I remain long in this. Even though my stop was 58.40 and it violated it 1, 2, 3 days in a row, I am literally 13 cents away. So I will hold that. Gold, ripping. We will get long gold on Monday. Ethereum, all of our Ethereum positions, until that dipshit is done, slamming down Ethereum. Look, Ethereum is not going to gain traction until that huge short position is gone. I can't, look at this. This is about the most well-defined channel that I have seen. Look at this thing. Yes, this is not organic, okay? This is not normal. Not when you see this. The same damn thing. This is Bitcoin. What is going on? Okay? I think it's being accumulated, and according to all the news, it is. It's being accumulated, y'all. All right, let's look at, Ethereum. Obviously, I'm out to 26 and 27 on those. I have no concern. EOSE popped on Monday because of a false news report that tied them to a drone order, okay? We just happened to go in on Friday and were able to scale a portion of ours. Some people got out plus 100, some people I got out plus 75, and I didn't scale all of it because I'm waiting for next 2 weeks, right? I'm waiting for the next 2 weeks. There's presentations, multiple presentations, panel participations, and in the back of my mind, I continue to remember that Nathan said that orders would be coming soon, to that effect, right? And so, and he's not the type of guy that I've historically heard him say something like that. I don't know if he said orders or good news is coming soon or whatever he said, right? But it was positive. So I'm not touching EOSC. I'm fine with it. Enivex, hey, great news out of Enivex. They actually closed their warrant and they raised, I think, $230 million. So here's the good news. They can go out and buy a company. Now, the last company they bought was that Korean battery manufacturer, which, as I said, they completely fucking overpaid for. But that's fine. They did that. It's water under the bridge and another nail in the coffin of them being absolutely terrible. But here's the thing. Money fixes problems. I've said this before. Look at all the shitty companies out there that make no money, Facebook and Google, on the, when they started up, that make no money and have shitty management. And the stock goes up. Look, why? They got money. They got money. And so $233 million or whatever it is, that's a lot of money. So I still have a short on it, but it will be interesting to see how they deploy that capital. If that's for line 2, or it's for acquisition of battery company. I think if they acquire another asset, I think that tells me line 2 is in trouble. Yep. Let's see here. CCL, Carnival Cruise Line. Yeah, I still remain in that. We scaled on it, gapped down, we held it, and it's coming right back up. Okay. BORR, great play from Turtle Squirt. This is a long-term play. I forget. I'm already up in that. BMNR. Okay. This is Tom Lee's deal. How low do I think it can go? Well, I think they're defending the 40. Kathy Woods bought more yesterday. He's going to continue to buy more until he gets to 5% of Ethereum. He does not care. The ruling this week, the comment that the Nasdaq was going to put out new rulings or looking at guidance covering treasury companies does not affect BMNR. BMNR is a New York Stock Exchange company, so they're not affected. They don't have to file any additional paperwork in order to be allowed to offer shares to the public. So I don't think that's why it went down. I think BMNR, okay, again, is being accumulated, and it's going to move up and down with Bitcoin, or Ethereum, though on Friday, I saw Ethereum move up and BMNR did not. But the other note that I have made is lately BMNR has been trading with the NASDAQ, which is good. I'd rather trade with the NASDAQ because I think it's a growth company. So I added one more. I've got one left to add, which I will add at a break of 55. Or 50. Now, I've got to look at these price levels here, but this is a very, very, look at this. They are trying to punch this lower, but it keeps being defended. Tom Lee's going to defend it in that $40 range. Okay, and obviously he can be overwhelmed if they really decide to short this thing down. Okay, but I do believe that of the Ethereum treasury companies, I'm in the best one. I think that SBET's already trading below its NAV, which means you could effectively buy it today for less, okay, than the Ethereum that they own. Now, that's like buying a company at below book value, right? You think you're getting a great deal, but there's a reason why it's trading below book value, yeah? I don't know what's going on with SBET. It could be a rotation out of SBET into BMNR. I don't know yet, but I don't care because BMNR, I don't believe anybody's rotating out of BMNR into SBET. The bull thesis for BMNR is very simple. They will be the largest Ethereum treasury company. And unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum, you can stake, so you can derive and create income off of it, so revenues, whereas Bitcoin, you can't do that, okay? Not institutional level, I'm sorry. So the other advantage that Ethereum has is there are more and more companies coming out. Who was it? Not Vanguard. There was a large mutual fund company came out, the CEO, and said that Ethereum is the blockchain of Wall Street. And that's what they're building it off of. Look, I'm not a blockchain expert. I'm far from it. But I'll tell you, when I read these reports, it is apparent to me that we've got a concerted effort by a good part of Wall Street to try to build things off the Ethereum blockchain. In addition, we've got on Monday morning both Michael Saylor and Tom Lee will be on CNBC. I think it's 6:30 in the morning. Interesting, Mike. I thought that MicroStrategy was going to be added to the S&P 500. It was not added to the S&P 500, so we'll have to see what that reaction is. But I've heard this before. Oh, this is the ninth inning of whatever asset, okay? And it keeps going up. So I warned everyone when I went into this trade that with Ethereum and Bitcoin or BMNR, that this was a longer term trade and that I was willing to put up with the volatility. And what I screwed up on is on this spike here where I could have pulled money out, I didn't. I screwed up. Actually, it was, I think it was this spike. I screwed up, so I will not make that mistake again. I think if I go over, let me go back to EOSE. I expect news in the next couple of weeks. That's why I opened up lotto size positions right here in October. Okay. I opened those up. I've already scaled on them. I've got November's. I've got Jan 27s, 26s in another account. I believe EOSE from a longer term macro picture looks excellent. This is your weekly chart, by the way, right? New high, new high, new high. This could come back down to 6 again and then go up. So I'm okay with that. But I've got binary events coming up this week that, quite frankly, could launch this thing above $8, okay, $8.91. But this is a big deal. Even though we did not finish at the highs this week, this is the highest close we've had in, let's go back. Oh my gosh, it's been, this is the highest close we've had since December of 2021, okay? So if you pull yourself back on a weekly chart, what is it y'all are worried about? It looks fine. This is the monthly, by the way. But what is it all you're worried about? I am not concerned, okay? This is not a concern to me. I am not going to, this is one of my largest positions. I think I'm at 26% right now on EOSE. I'm at 36% on BMNR and Ethereum. And I'll remain until I get a data point that tells me that the risk to reward has changed. I will not adjust it, okay? Looking at some other positions here, I've got Bed Bath and Beyond, or whatever they're called. So they got the CEO fired from T0, and that's why the stock moved up. I'll probably close it on Monday. My Bank of America, which I already scaled on, it's broke out. There's a weekly. Let me go back to the daily. Certainly you can see the breakout, right? And break and retest. So I'm fine with that. I don't believe there's anything to do there. Looking at the overall market, the NQ, you can see stuck, right? It's just, it's a mess. I mean, all these lines look terrible. Let me pull those off. Those are just terrible. But all the indexes remain stuck right now. What do I think is going to happen? Well, we had some news coming out on Friday. A lot of news hit the market after hours, most of it political news. We've got apparently China, India, Russia are going to, well, they had a summit. And from the surface, who knows? It apparently went well. Over the weekend, we also had release of a failed special operations mission in North Korea in 2019. I don't know what that's going to do. We had Trump sign an executive order to put 15% tariffs with exceptions in Japan on Japan. Am I happy with what's going on? I'm a lot happier than if Biden was in there or Kamala. But no, I'm not. Here's the thing: there's no politician. There's nobody that's going to do exactly what you want. So what I do is I constantly look at what they're doing, what the trend is of what they're doing. Do I think it's good? Do I think it's bad? Okay. And then look at some of the other decisions that I don't like and see if they're going to, violate or affect the overall trend of what he's doing. I don't think so. interest rates are going to come down. I don't know how to make this any more clear. They are going to come down. Short-term rates. That's like quantitative easing. Okay. I believe income taxes will get canceled. I believe there is going to be more stimulus into our economy. And so I think we have a president that, right or wrong, doesn't give a shit what anybody else thinks. He's going to do what he thinks is right. Well, so it becomes a little bit, for me, it's more predictable. Okay. Ultimately, we also had, and I predicted it, we had obviously on Friday horrible jobs numbers, right? With the number of jobs created, the number of unemployed now surpassing the number of jobs open. No shit. We talked about that the labor market was weakening. How does the market expect there not to be a weakening? Okay. With all the layoffs that happen in the federal government. And even in the private sector, while private sector hiring we know has been muted. In fact, we've seen a tremendous amount of layoffs from high tech. So why should we be surprised that the job market, was weak on one report? And look, people, don't get caught up in the day-to-day as much as you need to step back and say, hey, I remember that. That's what I expected to happen. This turmoil with the tariffs. I expected there to be all this FUD thrown out there. Why? Because I've been in the market so long. I've been around this. I see how this flows. It follows the same pattern of the initial exasperated emotional reaction, and then the data starts coming in, right? And supports the longer term story. There is nothing I've seen thus far that I can say with any confidence that anybody knows what the hell is going to happen. Okay? 6 months out, 9 months out, let alone 3 months out, right? I will say that when I look at the polling, 55% of Americans are positive about Trump. I see business confidence moving up. Okay, I see. Look, there is a tremendous amount of turmoil right now, but I'm going to say it's no less or no more than it typically is. Now we have tariffs, yes, we have geopolitical events, but if you think about it, we always have something going on in the world. Ultimately, okay, I do not believe that there is this massive crash coming. Now, yes, I watched Japanese rates. Yes, I was, getting a little concerned when I saw rates going up, but they came back down too. So, a Japanese bank could implode. That could crash a financial system, but I don't think so this time. I really don't. And I'm not saying they'll fix that problem in an ethical manner. There is so much. Let's put it this way. If you look at the EU, right, and they somehow have committed to $1 trillion defense spending of money they don't have, how are they going to do that? Well, they can continue to tax is what they do, but there's another way, which is to inflate assets, right? Stock market. So I think, we've had 45, 46 interest rate cuts globally. It takes time, usually 9 to 12 months, before an interest rate cut is able to bleed into the system, right? I fully expect to cut out of Powell. I think, I don't know. I think he should do a half point. But my point is there is this building momentum to the bull side for the global economy. There are major potholes out there, okay? But there is, follow the money, okay? And the money's telling me, you see, I've showed you chart after chart that the M2 money supply continues to go up, right? The global money supply continues to go up. Countries are printing money. If there's not, investments in industry or whatever, they're going to go into the market. It's going to go into the stock market. It's going to go into the same place it went before. And so just as in 2008 and 2009, I had to hold my nose and buy. Just after September 11th, I held my nose and bought because I thought it was an overreaction. I'm holding my nose and buying now too. And thus far, I've been right. All right. Well, I think I'll end there. It's been a busy last couple of weeks personally. I've been also in the market. But remember what I said a couple of weeks ago? My job in September is try not to get shaken out. There's a balance, right? There's volatility. So in these types of market, you can see I'm giving my trades just a little bit more room. But I don't want to, that's a fine line because you don't want to, again, fall in love and you start believing in the story. So I remain bullish. I believe the market's going to close higher than we are at the end of this year. I think the monetary policy in the U.S. and our current administration wants this market higher. And I think only a black swan event, what would they be? A bank failing, perhaps, private equity. I think the real estate market's, getting crushed in America. And because banks are legally allowed to keep those on their balance sheets for up to 3 years and not have to report them, that's why they're getting away with it. So as much as I despise from a moral and integrity standpoint what goes on in the market, my job is to try to navigate it and make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of risk. And I will continue to do that. So, but my thinking is we'll get through September. I think the next 2 weeks in EOSE are going to be very telling, and it could go wrong. I don't know, but I don't believe it will. And that's why I have positioned myself heavily on it. But even those positions, my short-term calls on those are such a small part of my portfolio relative to my leaps. So, all right, I hope you all have a great weekend. Eagles won. Penn State's going to beat FIU. Kansas City lost. Cowboys still suck, as do any other team in the NFC East. So have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my babbles, and I will talk to you next week.
They ain't got no muscle, no hustle, no backbone. I stand alone, not tripping, just saying I'm different. Ain't hanging on to the coattails of the next man. Passport in my left hand, thinking that you are next. Heck, hope you ain't holding your breath, man, cause I'm out here, I'm hungry. I don't play around, trust me. Ain't had as much drive since my Honda Civic got rusty, and my girl said she loved me.